because I was looking at your catalog. You produced a lot of tracks that I wasn't even knew that you had produced, but I could say I first got hip to you. Now you produced on Jim Jones, My Diary.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a
sir.
classic, man. We shed some tears to that. That's a powerful track,
Wow.
man.
Very powerful. And and it's crazy because that you felt that way as a fan of the music, right? Where it's like when we made it, I'm like, man, this ain't the Jim everybody used to. Like this ain't, Jim talking a whole different talk. And that's how powerful music is, and that's why production is so important, right? Because it inspires those artists, to write whatever they're gonna write. So the fact that he was vulnerable the way he was and transparent as an artist, it ain't a club banger, but it's a joint that's thought provoking. You know what I mean? It kind of, you got to kind of sit back and, kick it and really take that record in. And shout out to Denise Weeks. She was on the hook on that joint, and it's crazy that you brought that record up. I recently made a post. I want to say like maybe last week about that record, right? I had the opportunity to meet Leon, the actor Leon. Above the Rim is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I was a little kid when I went to see that. And one of the songs that resonated with me in that movie was Tupac, the record called Pain. And I just love, I was a little kid at that time, so I didn't really connect with the lyrics. I connected with the music and the beat. I didn't know it was a sample. I just heard the piano and everything moving, and I just like, I love that. And when I went digging years later as a producer, I went digging and found the original record, to where they sampled it from, and I just had to have it. Like I bought the record, and I was just like, this is a joint I need to have, man. And I'm like, should I redo it for myself? And I just redid it, and that was the beat that Jim Jones used for My Diary, man. So kind of was a full circle moment of, meeting the actor that was a really credible actor in that movie Above the Rim, and things just coming around full circle. They shot that in Harlem, you know what I'm saying? The whole was really based in Harlem. For Jim Jones to be from Harlem, for him to pick that track, it's just, and I don't even know if he knows like the significance of the sample and like where I got it from and just the history of it. So I created a post. So the fact that that's one of your favorite records, man, is really dope and it says a lot.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I got to give you props because a lot of times when people, even though it was a sample, they may remake a Pac or a Biggie record. That's a challenge. You know what I'm saying? But you pass the expectations. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I think
Right.
I might even like this one better. We love Pac. Rest in peace to
Yes,
him.
sir.
But you really did your thing on that track. Let me see. I wanted to ask you about this. Now you done worked with over like 100 different artists. You work with, like you say, Puffy. You worked with Talib Kweli, Chris Brown, J Lo. Can you recall like maybe did you have like a studio session that a memorable studio with any artist? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like the more we get into the future, it's less studio sessions like that because people email or the artist may be in
Hmm.
another city or a state or you know what I'm saying.
Right. Honestly, I think, and it's crazy. Like when we made my diary, like that was a legendary night. Because for me, I'm a church boy, man. I'm a church boy at heart. Like, I grew up in the hood, but I couldn't really go outside. I couldn't really hang out. It was like I was really covered and protected. You know what I'm saying? So I remember walking into that studio session. I want to feel like it was that right track on 49th Street, off Broadway. And I remember walking in, and there was like 1,000 dudes in there. It was weed smoke everywhere. It was bottles everywhere, and I was by myself, and I didn't feel no way. Like I wasn't nervous. I knew I was there to do a job, and I think the song was already recorded. I think we were mixing. I think we were mixing the record, and it was just a really dope session where I'm surrounded by like I'm sure about probably some of the most realest goons in the world, with Jim and we in there talk about my diary. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just a really surreal moment. I can remember that. The Foxy joint was crazy too because when I went to see Foxy in the studio, like that was my first time like going and actually playing beats at a studio, like you know what I'm saying? So I think that was a surreal moment to walk into the studio to see an artist that I'm a real fan of, that's excited about my music and the beats that I made in my living room, literally. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a life changing session where I played beats and, she picked out what she loved and I was like, yo, I'm a holla. You know what I'm saying? And the next day I get a phone call about the Cradle to the Grave. And so those are definitely memorable sessions. And like you said, and I love that you said that, a lot of the records that I produced, bro, I wasn't even in the room for. A lot of artists recorded, when Pro Tools dropped, I just think that kind of changed the game for everybody in a good way and in a not so good way, right? In a good way because you could just do anything, So like it's like, sky's the limit, right? And then I think from a con standpoint, it just took away that gathering of the artists and the producers being in the same room and just kind of working and building together. That's when demos started happening when an artist would take a beat and see how they sound on it versus taking a beat, paying for it, going to the studio, making it work. So a lot of cats was, not wanting to pay because they want to see if it works, if they sound good on it, if they can write a record. So it was, a lot of pros and cons, when it came to that. But a lot, like I said, a lot of this, like Chris Brown, I've never been in the studio with Chris Brown, and we out of everybody that I worked with, production wise, I'd say he probably is the artist that I made the most records with. We did, I want to say, 8 on Heartbreak on the Full Moon album. I had one on Indigo album. I had a joint on the album with him and Tyga. Bunch of mixtape joints, a bunch of joints that he leaked. He wrote the J Lo record, Same Girl, that we produced. He wrote the Justin Bieber record, Christmas Eve. So we got a lot of work together. And I've never been in the lab with Chris Brown ever in life. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but at the end of the day, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because we're making hits. But imagine us being in the room together and creating together. So, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm just kind of like thinking about these scenarios because I don't get asked this question a lot. So I love that you went here. Another dope session was me and Trey Songz. It was, I'll never forget it. It was in New York. It was a snowstorm. We was in rehearsal, band rehearsal, because we had a show in Connecticut for Valentine's Day, and he had just got back from LA, and we was rehearsing. He was like, "Yo, you want to go to the studio with me tonight? I got the studio book. Let's just go in and see what we can come up with, and then you could just stay with me, in the city instead of going back home because I live far, and because we had rehearsal the next day." Yo, we went into the lab that night, bro. No kidding. Like I think in 2 days we had like 7 songs. Um, and just to kind of see Trey's process, and we worked together on the stage, as his music director and drummer. So from the performance standpoint, we're locked in. So, but for me to see him in the lab and just to see his fluentness on the Pro Tools, he records himself, like kicks the engineers out, does everything on his own, slides his vocals. Like it's the craziest thing I've ever witnessed, bro. It's from an artist standpoint, and like I said, we made about 6 or 7 songs, and them joints was nuts. So that was definitely a memorable. I remember I think we stopped at like 7 in the morning, had rehearsal at like 12. Like it was crazy.